Banana Slam Jam.
Welcome back, everybody. We have a 3K Anti-Mage replay analysis, and he has said that he struggles to find space to farm after the laning stage. So we'll watch a bit of the laning stage, and then I guess we'll be focusing on the part afterwards, because that's what he seems to want me to highlight here. So it looks like a decent Anti-Mage game. The really only way they have to kill you after Manta is the DK stun. Before Manta, if they were managing to catch you with like 3 or 4 heroes, they could kill you with Global. Whenever I'm playing heroes like Anti-Mage, I like to think exactly how I die, because I'm going to be farming the majority of the game by myself. So unless I have like some save that can manage to sit behind me, which isn't very common, especially on Anti-Mage, because most supports that save you can't keep up with you. So I think you're a bit scared to walk out there. I guess you're against Dazzle potentially at the runes, so that's why. Yeah, you should definitely level your mana break for the range creep. It's effectively 14 damage, so every carry needs to try to secure ranges if possible. They have nerfed the difference between range and melee significantly, but still quite important. I don't think Stick does anything for you in this lane. You're against Dazzle and DK. DK maybe uses like 3 Breathe Fires this entire lane because you're mana burning him. And Dazzle will maybe use 5 spells throughout the course of the entire lane. I think it's really important, especially on farming carries, that you skip items that are unnecessary. 200 gold is a lot, especially nowadays. I guess they have buffed creeps a bit more. But yeah, this is just a complete waste of gold. There's really nothing more to say about it. You could consider Wraithband, you can consider components of your treads, you could consider the Ring of Health. I would say probably like Wraithband or maybe 2 would be good for you, but Stick is definitely a complete waste here. Stick is an item that I always want you to consider as a carry, and you buy it for a very specific reason. Not because it's like a default item that you buy. You could be telling your AA to pull, the large camp especially. It looks like the small camp is blocked. If he's not going to pull, you can consider pulling it yourself. I don't think you should be content with the lane being where it is. For all you support players that are watching, please take note, every 3 to 4K replay analysis that I do, the lane is never pulled. And you all wonder why you are 4K.
Really? I always pull my own.
It is never pulled. It is actually insane. In my 5K games, nobody pulls.
But why?
You tell me. Seriously though, you tell me. The majority of mistakes are quite obvious that people could fix. So far I think your laning mechanics are okay. I think the Stick obviously is a waste, but aside from that, your play is overall reasonable. Glove of Haste and a Wraithband, okay. You're not really in a lane where you can be aggressive, so you kind of just have to be content chilling. I would like you to check the DK's mana. I'd like you to keep him at pretty much no mana. He has a very low mana pool. I haven't seen you check the hero at all. I think it's really important that you just check his mana and then hit him to mana burn him. But aside from that, your attacks will do no damage. So all you're really doing at that stage is securing your own farm. You're not worrying about shutting him down. You're just making sure he can't nuke you or anything like that. That's true. Guess it's a mid silencer. Unfortunate. Showed up in your lane like that. I would not have expected that either.
Are you even trying?
Not all that bad. You hardly missed any creeps for it. And it was a heavy commitment on his ult, so... Didn't lose any tower damage really either. So I'm fine that you start pushing out the lane now. I think it's strong to consider rotating between lane and jungle at this point. You can't really do anything to DK. You can definitely do stuff to dazzle though, which you are. This is good. All good here.
The scales balance.
You're gonna back off. Okay. Maybe a bit loosey-goosey on that salve usage. I probably would have considered just holding on to that. Just because you do have a ring of health. They don't exactly have burst damage in this lane, so being at like 500 health isn't that big of a deal. In some lanes, you can use salve for 300 health, but in this lane specifically, I don't think it's worth it. So at this stage, you do have to be careful about pulling like this. I know I talked to my carries about pulling a lot to reset the lane equilibrium. You're against a DK who wants to push your tower, so it's actually bad for you to pull here. And it's also a stage in the game where you're strong enough to hit neutrals because you have treads and a Wraith Band and a Ring of Health. So, like, usually the times I'm yelling at people to make sure they single pull to fix the lane equilibrium is at like 5 to 7 minutes into the game. You're about 9 minutes into the game now when you did that. And you effectively just gave the DK some damage on your tower, and it'd be much better if you just killed the small camp there. Just try to take note of like the reasons why I'm telling you it's bad to pull. Most of the time it's correct. Once again here, it really, it's just unnecessary waste of your time. You could have killed this camp before the 12-minute mark and then cleared it again.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
So it just looks like a... Actually, no, you guys are up by 3k. Interesting.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
I think you're feeling a tad too glued to your own safe lane here. There's a lot of times where I don't know how to word it other than... On Anti-Mage, for the most part, you only really lane if you have to. Like, meaning it doesn't feel good to jungle, or nobody else is going to take the lane, or they're showing like 4 heroes tops, so it's probably best that you push the bottom lane in to force a reaction of some sort. You kind of just have supports that are sitting in the lane, and then you're proceeding to like go back to the lane every single time the lane could be farmed, and what that's resulting in is just instead of jungle creeps being cleared, you and your support are both sharing levels in the bottom lane. So I think that has a lot to do with why you're level 8 at 15 minutes. As a carry, it's just really important to acknowledge, like, if a support can do the job, you just shouldn't do it. There is this degree of, like, hey, if you farm really slow in the jungle, you should just take the lane anyways. So what I mean is if you're, like, a level 5 or 6 anti-mage at 7 minutes into the game and you don't have treads yet, by all means, stay in lane, even if your support could get the farm. But this case, you have treads and a broadsword. You hit for plenty of damage. There's just no reason to split XP in the lane as opposed to be more efficient on the map. As a team, in general. And you're also putting yourself at threat by putting yourself, obviously, in the dead lane over and over again. I think it does speak a lot to why your Battle Fury is around 18 minutes, despite having a pretty solid lane. I think with like really good farming speed, you could have it at like 16. You probably miss like 2 or 3 small camps. Obviously, it's annoying that your SF showed up here. It's like the same thing for him. Why is your powerful mid hero farming that lane when his carry Anti-Mage could farm it? In the first case, the support's weaker than you. In this case, you're weaker than him. So why is he taking this farm? Obviously, he's yoinking your Battle Fury gold as well. Anti-Mage SF isn't really a duo. Secret TI5 taught us this. Obviously, both heroes want to hit neutrals a lot. Both are very farm-dependent, of course, so it kind of makes this awkward situation where you're both hitting neutrals. So if you picked second, it's your fault. If he picked second, it's his fault. So you have a pretty late Battle Fury, but all things considered, the game is still fine. Would definitely fly yourself a Clarity, especially when you're dealing with heroes like PL that have mana burn. So PL just TP'd here. There's no reason to overreact. It's 19 minutes. Every camp that you farm, that PL would have farmed, is like double the value. No reason to panic here. You just saw 2 mid, you see 1 bottom. They're not ganking you. This PL is not going to like immediately run at you. You have to think this hero wants to hit the creeps in lane. So when it comes to like farm efficiency on the map, you're just giving up a jungle camp. You're just giving up that big camp at the 19-minute mark. And then you're TPing to your own mid lane point blank range. This is like, you know, you're asking me why do you struggle to get farm? Well, instead of farming this camp and these 2 camps, you're TPing in front of your supports and yoinking their XP. Here's how the dead lane concept works. Most carries want to farm top. We're talking from Radiant's perspective. Most carries want to farm top. So if you've watched any of my videos, if I ask this question, you'll know the answer. I say, why do you leave top? Well, because the opponent makes you leave top. Did the opponent make you leave top, or did they just TP their carry there and you just said, oh, it's yours now, have it? Like, why aren't you killing that big camp, potentially cutting the next wave behind their tier 1 tower at 19-15? They lack catch. Like, they can't kill you all that easily. You're sitting on the side of the map where every other hero on your team has the capability of farming those creeps. Your supports can farm underneath your tier 2. Any of your cores can farm the jungle. Nobody else on your team can play aggressively by themselves on the opponent's side of the map. Nobody. So by not playing as aggressively as your hero can, what that usually does is take the farm from your teammates. I had a game pretty recently, it was either yesterday or the day before, where I had a Tinker that insisted on taking the safest farm on the map, even though he had Boots of Travel and a Blink. And it's like, what ends up happening is the Tinker doesn't really notice, hey, like, I'm yoinking my teammate's farm. But what also happens, not only are you taking your team's farm, but because you're taking your team's farm and you're not farming the opponent's jungle, the opponent's also getting more farm on the map. So it's like this double-edged sword where you're costing your own teammates net worth, which is going to hurt you in the long run, and you're giving the opponent more net worth. Like, just imagine if that PL shows up to the big camp and then shows up to the small camp and they're just gone. Like, that's effectively double the impact of any other camp you could farm, because you're not only giving it to yourself, but you're taking it away from him. So when you're playing heroes like Anti-Mage, you need to push the limits. You can't just be a pussy on the map. Like, you can't be playing completely scared, especially when they're like showing other heroes earlier on in the game. What happens is, if they just push to your tower, it's going to take them X amount of time to get to wherever you are on the map. Whether or not they TP, whether or not they all run there, whatever. You need to start having this internal clock of, hey, if they just showed mid and I'm top, how long is it when they're all missing? Like, now that they're missing, how long will it take them to get to me? And rather than just TPing immediately away, take that extra 10 to 15 seconds that you have to farm 2 camps, maybe a creep wave, blink into the trees, and then TP away. Not only are you getting more farm that way, but you're also pushing more waves. If you don't push waves properly, what that means is the waves will naturally be shoved onto your side of the map more often. And if the waves are shoved onto your side of the map, the opponent has superior information. They have map control like they do with the 2 outposts. Look at the lanes right now, right? Like, the lanes are all shoved onto your side of the map. And that speaks a lot to the fact that you're an anti-mage that's not split pushing properly. So it makes it really hard for your teammates to do anything. It makes it hard for them to go anywhere, because you're this super strong split pusher that's just sitting in your own jungle where they are. So it's really important to think about Dota that way. And this is something where there's a lot of depth to it. So I need to bring it to your attention first. And then it would benefit you later at some point, maybe a week or 2, to come back. If you don't have the money, all good. I'm not trying to like guilt trip you into paying again. But I would have to see what you do while you're aggressively split pushing to help you get better at it. But it's kind of like when I tell people in lane, you're just not being aggressive enough. And past that, I can't really coach you, because the way I can coach you past that is teaching you how to be aggressive better. I need you to be more aggressive on the map. And I know I just took a long spiel on that, but I do need you to be able to push your limits to the point where I can talk to you about your limits. I can talk to you about, you know, where you could be optimally pushing that aggression. You're just playing really scared. And it's just never... It's going to hit you with a wall real quick. If you play scared, the wall will eventually come where... The way to reliably win, I've noticed, in like lower brackets, is just pressuring better than the opponent. And you can do that while farming. None of this that I'm telling you is telling you not to farm. So I don't mind your rotation here, but you just saw 3 bottom, and you just saw 3 bottom, and you need to force reactions here. And what I'm saying is, they're not all going to immediately be there. And I know you got an extra camp out of it, but this tower is super fucking important. And it already speaks to how poorly you've been split pushing, that this tower is still alive. I think with the way the game started, this tower should have been dead sometime before 15 minutes. But, like, they're all dead. They just showed 3 heroes here. I know you're going to miss a camp for it, but this is an example where I really think it's important that you take this tower, and they're all bottom, so you just have to hit this tower. This camp is not correct. Because by the time you're done with the camp and come back, now they've defended. So notice how by taking 5 seconds to farm the camp, that's the 5 seconds that you would have been able to hit the tower. So it's not like you're delaying your push by 5 seconds. You're literally removing 5 seconds of damage to the tower, which in this exact case is all of the damage that you would have done to the tower. So it's pretty impactful when you think about it that way. So you forced reactions, but not enough. Not well enough. So you're going to run mid. Running top is a weird choice because you just forced heroes to TP here. So here's how Dota works. I understand top is like the lane I tell you you want to be in. But there's a big difference between forcing people to walk to you and forcing people to TP to you. If they TP to you, there needs to be this cat and mouse game that you're playing. You force them to TP top, and because you're this mobile hero that can also kill creeps while you're doing so, you work your way all the way to the other side of the map. Because guess what? Since they TP'd there, unless it's been 80 seconds, they have to catch you by walking. They have to literally walk all the way from top to mid. So when you rotated to mid there, it makes absolutely no sense for you to run back top. I knew it right when you did it. I'm like, what are you doing? That's where you TP. That's where you forced them to TP to. So the next step is not only forcing reactions, but also understanding what those reactions mean for you. So when you force people to TP, that usually allows you to do some semblance of like a clean sweep across the map. Then you force them to TP bottom because you're more mobile than they are. So to keep up with you, they have to TP. If they don't TP, you take bottom tower. If they TP bottom, you then TP top. So it's like you force them to TP top. You can blink your way across the map, force them to TP bottom, and then you TP back top and kill top. Instead, though, you forced them to TP top, went mid, and then you just walked back top right into them, which is not what you should be doing. If they walk top, it's a bit different, and I'd have to see the exact game to talk to you about that. But notice how you got to bottom eventually, but you're what, another 10 seconds late because you went into that triangle, and by the time you're 10 seconds late, look what's happened to your towers. Right? You may say, BSJ, I still got the tier 1. Well, that tier 1 push was delayed by 10 seconds, and look what's happened in 10 seconds. Right? It might have even been more. It may have been like 15 seconds. A lot happens in Dota in a short amount of time. The later the game goes, the more that happens. You see 3 heroes on the map. Hit the damn tier 2. Are you really that concerned about efficiency here? You know what? I don't hate it. You know, if you want to go for efficiency here because you're rushing that Manta, I'm fine with that. You should definitely cut this creep wave, which you're going to do. Good. You should not farm around here anymore. This is giving me... Oh my god. This is making me so scared. Oh god, you cancel your TP or what? Did you not have a TP? I think you're killing yourself.
sorcery claims me.
So the way I've learned to train, it's a process even for me right now. But when I show on a creep wave, I have to imagine, if they instantly TP, what does that mean for me? So what that means is that if they instantly TP, how far can the hero that instantly TP'd chase me? So what I mean by that is, like, if I'm on Nature's Prophet and I TP on a creep wave, and I'm aware that they have like a Storm or an Ember Spirit, I can't show on that creep wave for 3 seconds. Because if I show on that creep wave for 3 seconds, the Storm Spirit's already immediately TP'd, and he's ball lightning to me and killed me. What I can do as a Prophet is I can TP in, summon trees, and then leave before I even show on the wave. Because by the time Storm Spirit would have reacted, I'm already gone. In this case, they don't have any like Storm Spirit type heroes. But when you show on a creep wave, you can't just walk to the immediate location that would be very obviously efficient for you. That's not going to work, because even in 3K, 4K, people aren't stupid, right? Like, to the point where they'll be like, okay, we just saw Anti-Mage mid, he's going to go to this camp or this camp next. Obviously. You have to blink away. You have to make yourself in a position that is unreachable by an opponent that TP'd. Because when you cut creep waves, when you show aggressively on towers, you have to assume, unless proven otherwise, meaning you see every hero on the opponent team, that they have immediately reacted to seeing you. Very rarely, especially at your bracket, will people TP ahead of time. Like, if you're pushing top, very rarely will they TP ahead of time. So what happens is you'll show on the tower, and then within 1 or 2 seconds, then they'll TP. So if that's the case, like, if they're reading you like a book where they're TPing preemptively and shit, like, by all means, maybe you're gonna die every now and then. But please don't fucking die to people just TPing when you are cutting creep waves. You're an anti-mage and you just died to a guy that walked at you. Like, that should say a lot to you about your understanding of creep cutting and map pressure. The whole idea of playing these elusive heroes is that you're creating situations where people have to chase you, but they can't keep up with you. That's what you're trying to create. So I like that you cut the mid wave. That's great. That's like the opposite of what happened earlier, where earlier on in this replay, you were just playing like a pussy on the map, and I couldn't tell you anything better than you need to farm more aggressively. But now you farm more aggressively, and I can actually talk to you about, hey, you showed on a creep wave, this is what's going to happen. You have to play like it happens. Even if that silencer doesn't immediately TP, I probably would have blinked my way like farther into the jungle, and then based on that, what happens is that first blink away buys you this time to like process what the opponent's done. Like, are they reacting? Are they still just pushing? What are they doing? So at that point, you can either choose to cut the next wave top, you can choose to farm at a couple jungle camps. If you see them coming, you can blink onto a cliff and TP away. But what you did was you just effectively said, I don't think they're going to react, and I'm just going to play accordingly. Like, you have to assume people are reacting. You have to assume it. In your mind, you have to play out the situation. If they immediately react, what does that mean for me? And it's going to avoid these stupid deaths. We'll go a little bit more, but I think I've kind of answered, or I've very much answered what you were talking about when you submitted the replay.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
At this stage in the game, you have a 25-minute Yasha with no like a Battle Fear Yasha. You just don't have the farm that you need to be at on an anti-mage to win at your bracket reliably.
Under attack. Dire's top tower. Radiant tower scanning.
Okay. I haven't seen you check opponent items a single time. I have no idea what this DK has. I have no idea what Silencer has. I know he has a 4-staff because he used it on you earlier. But I haven't seen you check an opponent's items at all. If I know that DK has a Blink or a Shadow Blade, that's going to change how much I split push the map. If I know this PL has Diffusal plus Manta, I know that's going to change how I weigh the way I play the map. So, we'll briefly talk to you about why you check items. So when it comes to DK, I'm talking about DK specifically. I don't give a shit what Dazzle's items are, unless I'm going to try to kill him, because DK is the one killing me. On top of that, PL's kind of like the follow-up damage. His mana burn is a huge threat to my survivability. So I want to check the PL. What if PL has Diffusal Shadow Blade? Like, it's not crazy. What if he did that? And it's like, suddenly PL's missing. You think, oh, DK's not enough damage to solo kill me. I'm fine. But then there's like a PL right on top of you when you get killed by, when you get gone on by DK. I also like to think that PL is going to be farming. So if I run into him while I'm farming, who benefits? Meaning, who hits who? So if you watch my game of Jug, this is an example. I'll move my camera for a second. This is an example of a game. If you watch how I play against the Anti-Mage, you'll understand that I understand my hero is a superior farmer to Anti-Mage. And what I mean by superior farmer is, this is the replay ID down here, is that if my hero runs into his while we're both farming, I just hit him and I win. And he's forced to blink away. And when you're playing against heroes like PL, if PL has no defusal, you can just hit the PL when he's farming. So you don't have to be scared of farming against PL. But if PL has defusal, that trade no longer benefits you because you're going to get mana burned way faster than he does. So I'm telling you why it's important to check items, and I just haven't seen you do that at all. So I'm really going to wrap up this replay here and say that I've said enough. So hope you enjoyed the replay, dude.